See if
we'll get it going.
All right. He hasn't responded yet, so we'll see.
Building up the audience here. Say hey to Jason, everybody.
Hey.
Chris, and we don't worry about Chris.
You're not Mormon, are you?
No.
I was going to talk about the missionaries I saw today. I didn't want to offend you.
We can talk about it if you want.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Hey, you going to count me down? What are you doing?
I'm trying to get this set up. Why don't you get a new tripod, Chris?
It's not mine.
Oh, I love this tripod. It's actually a good tripod. I just thought it was... All right, here we go. You ready?
Count me down.
All right, don't interrupt me this time.
I won't. I promise.
All right, 3, 2, 1... Hit it, Chris.
Welcome to the Jones Zone podcast.
You did not interrupt me. Thank you for that.
Why'd you interrupt me? I was talking.
How do you like it?
I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
All
right. Let's do it.
Episode what? We're in the 60s. That's about all
67.
I know. 67.
67.
Awesome, man. What you been up to today, bro?
Huh?
What have you been up to today?
CEO stuff.
I wouldn't understand.
You wouldn't understand it.
No, gotcha.
CEO
stuff. So, I gotta tell you something.
Me?
Yeah.
What you got to tell me?
And Jason, too. I came across some missionaries today. I don't know if they were Mormon or what
Okay.
the deal is, but...
Were they in the white shirts and the ties?
White shirts, black pants,
Okay.
bicycle helmets, like they were riding their bike. I didn't have any interaction with them.
Okay.
I'm not talking bad about them or anything. They were riding their bikes on a busy road out in Belmont.
Okay.
I would phone it in. If I was a missionary, I'd be the worst
Can we Uber, right?
missionary ever. I would have gave up so long. It's the middle of the summer. They're riding their bikes with their helmet. Like it was a miracle that they didn't get hit by a car. I don't know for a fact.
That's a safety hazard. That's a safety hazard,
Maybe
yes.
they're protected.
I don't
As
know.
part of their...
Maybe.
But the effort level, I can't. Man, I don't. Maybe I just don't have enough faith or whatever. But I could not put myself through that in the middle of August. Are you still recording?
Yeah.
All right, let's get on with it. All right, today, now that I got that out of my system, we are here with Jason Collett with Adaptivity Development. Adaptivity Development partners with companies large and small, new and established, to maximize their core strengths and address weaknesses to achieve their true goals. Jason is also an accomplished professional keynote speaker, providing informational and motivational speeches on transformation, leadership, change management, testing and strategy.
Maybe we should do a drug test.
Start over. In 2016, he was named Rock Hill Area's Business Person of the Year. He serves on several different boards, including the York County Economic Development Committee, the Rock Hill Area Committee Chamber of Commerce. He supports the Technology Incubator and provides schools, universities, and colleges. Jason, welcome to the Jones Zone, man. Good to have you.
Catch your breath. That's
That was a mouthful.
impressive resume there.
For the intro.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a brief overview, but if you don't mind, man, why don't you share a little bit of your personal story and some of your professional background, and then how you got into doing all these things you're doing, man.
All right, my personal story. Well, that's always an odd or interesting, maybe, question. I kind of have a eclectic background. Some would call it eclectic. Some would call it schizophrenic and scattered. Some would call it I don't know what. But kind of dabbled with music very early on in life. I was a classical cellist and went to school for that. Left home and went to school and traveled quite a bit throughout the world as a musician, and had the fortunate experience of being to almost every continent in the world before I was 18. I didn't make it to. I hadn't made it to Antarctica.
Yeah. They don't put on many concerts out there, from what I heard.
But yeah, my teens and certainly my 20s, I did a lot of traveling. So that was a great way to kind of get started, and then had a pretty dramatic shift from the arts. Went towards psychology. And between psychology and business, I kind of found my home. So I guess ever since those early years, I'm focused on kind of the human factor side of business.
Okay.
And whether that's with the corporate 500 or even corporate 10 entities that I've worked with, or that's a small startup, brand new business, it's always kind of looking at, what are the business factors, but with a concentration on how do you make it successful? Because ultimately, there's somebody either buying or selling or participating in the process or whatever it is. That's ultimately what makes the business successful.
So you were a cellist at age 13 that traveled around the world. Were you like a child prodigy? How young did you start? And who was your favorite cello player growing
Hey,
up?
do you know those two cello brothers?
I don't know the two. I've met Yo-Yo Ma, but that's been a long time ago.
All right, cool.
My mom was, both my parents are physicians, and originally they were destined to be much different. My mom was going to be a stay-at-home, mom and piano teacher, and my dad was going to, I don't know, work the farm and maybe be a guidance counselor at the high school or something. And their paths changed, and when they became physicians or went on that path of education, my mom spent a lot of time with me with music and playing the piano, and I kind of picked up on it, and eventually that translated to cello and saxophone and guitar and other instruments. And so I had an opportunity to travel with the youth orchestra, and off I went.
Yes.
And then one thing led to another.
So is that with, what kind of program is that? I mean, did you have to try out for the youth orchestra? Like, what is that?
Yeah, there's tryouts and cuts and that sort of thing. And at that point in time, I'd gone to state competitions and, placed, taken first letters in those. And
In the state competitions?
Mm-hmm.
Is that broken into age groups or?
some of it's by age, some of it's by school and region and so forth. But there's different categories for different things. These were solos that I participated in. And then, again, one thing led to another. So you just kind of find yourself.
Yeah. That's really cool, man. You traveled the world playing the cello for a teenage group.
Yes.
And then, so you got out of that around 18, you said? Or?
Finished all my music stuff because I did a couple different tours and I went away to school, but kind of turned away from all that. I was probably 19, something like that.
And then you went off to college, I guess?
Yep, was at college. Had no idea what I wanted to do. So like every other former musician who had, parents who were physicians, I went pre-med.
I was gonna pre-med, I don't know.
And then they said, well, you got to pick a minor too, and it's like, all right, well, I'll do psychology, and fell in love with psychology.
Who's your favorite psychiatrist or psychologist?
Yeah.
Freud?
Freud's interesting. I'm more of a behaviorist from that standpoint.
Okay, so
Skinner.
B.F. Skinner.
Yeah.
So my professor was B.F. Skinner's right-hand man.
Really?
Wow.
So it was once removed. So that was kind of a cool exposure to that world.
I should get my mom on here. Get you back in there. The conversation they would have, because she loves B.F. Skinner.
Well, and what's interesting to me is that I didn't know it at the time, but I fell in love with business, right? So I knew I didn't want to be hey, lay back on the couch and tell me about your extramarital affairs and, I'll try to help. That wasn't really my thing. But once I discovered that there was a psychological element to business and business development, that really rang true.
I think a lot of it is not the positive mindset part, but the psychological part in terms of, I don't care if you're right, customers, employee performance. I mean, there is a ton of psychology in business.
Absolutely.
I
think about even like negotiations, right? So you could have an extremely well prepared, entrance, and then have your opponent or the person on the other side of the table totally throw a monkey wrench at you. Well, how do you deal with that, right? So you can react emotionally, or you can dial back, reposition, and move forward. All the way through, like you're saying, advertising and marketing, and how is the company or the service or the delivery about the people or the community or tied to something bigger. I mean, you guys do a great job with that. But that's so vitally important, and I would say it's even getting more and more important as a generational shift occurs. As we're coming into the workforce and the next generation's coming in, it's vitally important that there's purpose, that there's value behind the things that I'm buying or the things that I'm supporting. So it's a big trend.
All right, so I guess you got out of pre-med at some point, graduated college. What happened?
He's still pre-med.
No, I got my pre-med degree.
Still pre-med. Finished up psychology, had a great time with that. In order to pay for school, my parents were wonderfully supportive, right? So like every other former musician who started studying psychology, I had to go get a job.
Oh, the worst.
So my first job, well, actually two. So I started...
If you say Blockbuster.
Well, I worked at a brewery.
Okay.
So nothing like being in college and working at a brewery.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked at an indoor rock climbing gym. And so those things both grew and led to other things. So I got out of school, I did an MBA, I went on for a PhD in industrial organizational psychology. Meanwhile was working at the brewery, doing more with climbing, started leading expeditions or working with folks in ice climbing and going to Africa and Asia and different places.
Ice climbing? Is that what you said?
Ice climbing and mountaineering.
So tell me about this. At that place you worked, was it a rock climbing wall, you said, right?
Yeah, it's an indoor
rock climbing
gym.
So I did this class at Winthrop. They have that nice... I am the worst rock climber in history. No, I'm not.
Who would give up faster, you as a rock climber or me as a Mormon missionary? Who would be the bigger quitter?
You.
I would last a day.
There's a technique. You have to use a technique you can't just climb because your forearms, lactic acid builds up and it's forget about it. You can't. And like I made it up probably 8 feet and there's I'm 26 when I'm at Winthrop, right? And there's these 18-year-olds just having fun. They're going up to the top. I'm like peeing my pants halfway, like not even a quarter way up. I'm like, let me down. Let me down.
Gyms and have. This happens so many times, and I'm going to be kind of like cliche, right? But, you'd have this teeny tiny petite, girl come in with this muscle-bound, guy, that meathead, whatever, and the competition's already going, right? And then next thing you know, this little girl is just like a spider up the wall because they're turning and they're using their hips and they're stepping up on their legs, and it's just kind of this natural ability. And you have this guy that's trying to muscle it, burns out, before he even gets to the top.
You can't move your arms, and then the lactic acid just
the relationship falls apart.
my feet are too big, babe. I can't move.
I'm stronger than you are.
I don't even step. So how do you get a license as a rock climbing instructor? You just go through a class.
There's an AMGA certification, which is the American Mountain Guide Association, and they're kind of one of the authorities. So you can go through them and do a bunch of things. I partnered with a couple people and had some great experiences, but I was kind of like the psychological guy and definitely depended heavily on the folks that were technically savvy and knew all the ins and the outs.
And so you got to travel the world as a rock climbing instructor too?
Well, I didn't do as much climbing instruction as I did more like coaching and that. Sort of thing in the realm of climbing, right? So I knew enough about climbing to be dangerous.
I guess if someone
falls, that's probably not.
Put your foot there.
And you have to know how to tie the cords. There's a bunch of different. I've never taken Boy Scouts, and I'm not good with straps. Even in the Air Force, when they made us put up tents, anything with like lace or ropes, anything. I'm not that guy.
Lace.
Lace.
You're gonna climb with lace?
Did I say lace?
Guys, I got lace.
Laces. There we go. I'm not the kind of guy who can tie things. So
that was actually one of the things that I did. So we bring in a group, say like a management team, right? There's like 30 people standing in the room. And I tell them, all right, I'm going to show you all how to put on this harness safely one time. Here's the key from emotional communication, psychological perspective. Each and every one of you will remember about 10% of what I tell you, right? Each one of you is going to remember a different 10%, but I'm only going to tell you once. And so the only way that you're going to be able to survive, not climb up, flip upside down, fall out and die, is you're going to have to work together to make sure that these harnesses are on correctly. So I'd show them once, and then the arguments and the debates would ensue, right? And of course, never let anybody go forward without being safe. But it's an interesting exercise.
That was part of the
psychology.
It shows how we as individuals, I mean, our attention spans are hard. Our what we process and what we focus on in any given conversation is going to be different for each one of us, and we're not going to encapsulate 100%, right? We're going to walk away with a fraction. So, got to know that when you're working with people and communicating.
All right. After that, you got into corporate America? I guess, or how would you describe what you did after that?
Yeah, so I went to a company called Schneider National. They're the largest domestic transportation carrier in the world. They do truckloads. They're known for orange trucks. Actually, just this past year, they went public, which is pretty fascinating because it was a private family-owned company. And over there, I worked with an international logistics team. They were based in Europe.
Are you back in Michigan at this point, or
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
Green Bay, Wisconsin. I learned to become a football fan.
Yeah.
And
well, if you paid your taxes, I think you owned part of the Packers, didn't you?
yeah, well, you pay tax wherever you go. I mean, you fill up the gas tank and you're paying Packer tax on it. You buy cereal and you're supporting the team.
Part of the Packer tax. Quit your whining.
Is that a real thing?
Oh yeah.
The town owns the team, I think, right?
Well, the state.
The state, yeah.
Huh.
But right there in Green Bay, I guess it's Green Bay, right? Green Bay Packers. Yeah, there's taxes, extra taxes on everything that you do to help pay for the which is interesting.
So Snyder, and then
Schneider, which led to Bank of America, which brought me to Charlotte. Then I was with Honeywell for a stint, HR, global HR. Then I started two laboratories, doing DNA, forensics, drug and alcohol testing, that sort of thing.
How do you start something like that? I mean, what does that even mean? Yeah, I started a company. We do tests. Well, you do them? Well, I don't do them.
Oh, it's even better than it's not even to do tests. I became the pee guy, right? I mean, I'm like the urine enabler. So.
Oh man, I have a funny.
What a great badge of honor to wear around.
Should I get into my real quick? I got a funny story. I don't know if I should say. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there.
What'd you get? You spill pee on yourself?
No.
Right.
Okay, so I was in the Air Force. This was Tampa. I was stationed at MacDill Air Force Base. I was at work, and security forces found a joint in the dorm parking lot, and I lived in the dorm. So all the airmen who lived in the dorms had to go take a urine test. Yep. Now in the Air Force, there's literally somebody standing over your shoulder making sure there's no,
no funny business.
Yeah, no switcheroos going on.
Pee for me, Jones.
I'm a shy bladder guy.
Yeah,
it's you know.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this who knows me. I have a shy bladder. I have anyways.
Your bladder has anxiety problems.
It does. It really does. So, I'm trying to go. This guy is he's just standing over my shoulder. And, I try. But it hit me. I had to go to the bathroom, the other one, So I kind of I was like, I can't go right now. Let me drink some more water. He's like, all right, cool. So I was like, I didn't know what to do because I couldn't pee, but I had to go to the bathroom the other way.
Yeah.
So I went to my dorm room, and I could have gotten in trouble for this. And I went to the bathroom, came back, and I was right back in it. Another 20 minutes of drinking water, and I was good to go. But I risked.
How did you go number 2 without going number 1?
I almost what?
This
Wait,
is
number
getting
2?
into a way
It
different.
is.
Yeah,
This
all right.
is physiology, not science.
I'm sorry. There's a funny story.
This is bio. I don't know.
How did we get on this topic?
You just had to tell it.
I had
Couldn't
to.
help it.
All right.
The stories from the drug testing world go on and on and on. I mean,
Did you do hair or mainly just pee?
everything.
Yeah.
Fingernails, blood, hair.
Hair is a lot.
Skin
It,
patches.
the shelf life is a lot longer as opposed to pee, right?
So it's called window of detection.
Okay.
Right? So the window of detection is different. So if you think about the physiology of the body, right? Hair takes a while to grow. So if I smoke a joint right now and then go get, oh wait, I don't have it, but if I had hair, if I go get that tested in the next couple days, it's not going to show up because it has to go, through my system, through my blood, deposit, get into the follicle, and grow out, right? Urine is much faster, right? Because it's just going to go through your blood, through your kidneys, and now you're excreting it. So you're talking within hours, or less. But then it's flushed out and it's gone, right? So your window of detection is only, 48 hours for something like urine, but your window of detection for hair is going to be substantially longer as long as you don't start for a week.
Gotcha.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
So then all your different protein bases are all different windows of detection.
When I worked for DSS, I had to send this lady for a drug screen, and she was literally like pouring bleach in her hair. She was just freaking out.
Wow.
Yeah, what's the craziest thing you've seen?
thing is-
In terms of somebody trying to... You mentioned you had some doozies, but... I mean, I imagine people, because they got to go for work, they got to go for court orders or whatever.
all that stuff. I mean,
And they're just-
DSS.
yeah, their whole life
all
is
those
about to
pieces.
be flipped upside down, so they're completely desperate.
There are some pretty funny ones, especially like 2 o'clock in the morning at some construction site, and some guy trying to pass off a bag of whatever instead of his own. But one of my favorites was, and this happened multiple times, and I'll kind of boil it down to one similar scenario. Guy would come in. One of the first things we do is we look at the temperature, right? We just want to make sure that it came out of the body, right? If it's showing 105 degrees, it didn't come out of your body, right? It came out of an overheated dead body somewhere. If it came in at 80 degrees, it came out of a lifeless body, right? So, I mean, there's a window. And so we look at the temperature, and the temperature's way off. And then I look at the color for this gentleman, and the color is not right. And so I just kind of look at him, and I kind of know what's going on in my head already. If I just say, "You feeling all right?" "Yeah, I'm feeling fine." "Sure, there's no gastrointestinal problems or nothing going on downstairs?" "No, I'm good." "You sure? You're feeling okay?" "Yeah." "Why do you ask?" I'm like, "Well, you're menstruating." But the funnier part is when he says, "Well, what does that mean?"
Means you're on your period?
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that right?
Next time you get your girlfriend to do something for you.
Yeah.
Make sure. That's like the episode of Seinfeld where like Elaine gets Jerry's mom to pee for her,
Opium.
and they're like, you're
Yeah, she had
wasn't
poppy seeds.
menstruating, but they
Poppy seeds.
She tested
Yeah.
positive for opium because she had poppy seeds.
right.
And there's also an episode of The Office where Dwight was getting a drug, or he found drugs. So he ordered a person to come in and test everybody, and he was like, "Do you remember me?" Or I forget what it was, but he's like, he had green pea, and she's like, "Oh yeah, how are you?" He's like, "All better."
All right, let's get into adaptivity development, man. So,
All right.
what is that, and what do you guys got going on with that?
So it's a new company. We started back in January. Really, it's the coalescence of all the experiences that I've had, and I would say the network of partners and people that I work with have. So it's really, truly focused on what I would call economic development in the big picture. But, you know, Rock Hill, Fort Mill, South Charlotte, we're not necessarily limited by barriers, but we certainly have a concentration here. And it's just looking for